In 1880, an economic explosion occurred in Socorro, New Mexico, when gold and silver were discovered in the nearby mountains. Miners staked claims at Socorro Peak and the San Mateo, Magdalena, and Black Range mountains. The boom was further enhanced when, on August 12, 1881, the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad built a depot in Socorro, bringing with it an avalanche of different nationalities, forever changing the sleepy little village. The population explosion created a need for service-oriented businesses like restaurants, banks, boarding houses, flour mills, a brewery, and laundries. Socorro now included a collection of diverse cultures from across the United States and as far away as Europe and Asia. The industrialist Gustav Billing arrived in the fledgling boomtown in 1880 and built the area's first smelter, which became the centerpiece of Park City, a new mining community west of town. The population swelled to an estimated 5,000 in 1887, and residents continued to build new homes and a courthouse. During this era, the New Mexico School of Mining and Technology was established. Joseph E. Smith of Rockland, Massachusetts, found his way to Socorro. He was an engineer, photographer, and writer who had attended the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. While living in Chicago, he had befriended Edwin Bass, who was a photographer in Socorro. Bass was visiting the Midwest at the time and told Smith of Socorro's economic resurgence and persuaded him to move west. Smith found the drudgery of working the mines hard, so he dedicated his time to photographing that era in Socorro's history. The young photographer fell head over heels for territorial Socorro and the aura of the Wild West. Asians were among the many cultures that moved to Socorro to work during the mining boom, and Smith worked diligently to capture Socorro's newfound diversity. The exploding economy meant more work, and the once predominant Hispanic community of Socorro now included a collection of diverse cultures from around the world. Many of the Chinese men worked in the laundries and as cooks, barbers, carpenters, quarrymen, and miners. Doctors, barbers, blacksmiths, and attorneys came to Socorro during the boom times, as did circumspect characters like snake oil salesmen, gamblers, and cattle rustlers. Socorro even boasted its own bull ring in the 1880s, which was built on the outskirts of town and attracted huge crowds. Smith photographed the matadors in his studio. The San Miguel Festival, which honored the San Miguel Mission, was the most widely attended bullfight of the year. The townspeople also organized a baseball team that competed with the surrounding mining town. The circus came to town, and a bowling alley and skating rink were built to entertain the locals. At one point in the 1880s, 36 gaming licenses were issued in Socorro, earmarking the town as one of the gambling meccas of the Wild West. The gambling houses offered poker, faro, monte, and chusa, the preferred games of the period. When Joseph Smith arrived in Socorro, he did his best to blend in and learn to speak Spanish. But he couldn't help but to experience culture shock when he found out that women were allowed to smoke cigarettes. He photographed these two women puffing away while their dog poses for the camera. Shortly after the railroad arrived, several Protestant denominations joined the traditional Roman Catholic Church to tend to Socorro's new diverse spiritual needs. In this image, members of the clergy are photographed with children and Native Americans from the area. New arrivals to Socorro would often trade with the nearby Piro Indian settlement. This man poses next to a plant called sotol, which is derived from the agave plant. In Spanish, the plant is called a quiote. Quiotes were often made into staffs and used for ceremonies and procession by the neighboring Indian communities. This is an image of Socorro's carniceria, or local meat market. The designation of the American flag was used on the meat that was prepared for the U.S. cavalry. Smith also photographed daily festivities, like these two young boys fighting on the town plaza. Smith would photograph families in a home setting, but most of his work was created in his studio. He did his best to document new people to Socorro, as well as the Native American families of the area and the old Spanish families who had been there for centuries. After a decade of unprecedented growth, Socorro's population had dipped to a little more than 2,000 residents in the 1890 census. This was an indication that the surging economy was waning. The demonetization of silver delivered a devastating blow to the area's mining industry, and one by one, the hundreds of silver and gold mines began to shut down. In 1894, the Rio Grande Smelting Company closed its doors and the boom was officially bust. In the span of 14 years, Socorro experienced an international wave of humanity that would never be replicated again.